Hey, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to watch this video and to learn. My name is Ernie Brown. I'm one of the coaches at Wealth Without Wall Street. Since 2016, have been learning this process of infinite banking and incorporating this as I have grown my businesses and ultimately use this strategy now to control 100% of my cash flow. And that's what I want to share with you. If you're watching this, you're probably a business owner who is somewhat organized, probably, I mean, maybe not, but somewhat organized and is looking for ways to create better benefits in the business. Yes, to grow the business, but to take the cash and create more benefits. And so I want to share with you just a little bit of what I've been able to implement into my world, but also into the people that I help whose main focus is to grow their businesses, but create future benefits. And so we're talking about the infinite banking concept, which ultimately is a foundation for organizing, controlling cash flow that's happening in your businesses. Now, this is something that maybe you've wondered if there's a tool that you can use it. Maybe you've gone and realized, hey, I can open these lines of credit and I can be moving money in and out, and it gives me more organization. I like the benefits of that, but ultimately I don't really like that I'm not in control ultimately of this line of credit, that someone else is in this, or you're using just business checking accounts and trying to figure out the dynamic between your family and your business. And maybe if you have business partners, just organizing how all of that happens, what to do with it. Well, here is a process to implement and a way to create a foundational tool to organize those things, but to create future benefits. And ultimately what this is solves for multiple things. And what do I mean by that? Well, infinite banking is the process of storing and moving cash flow into a specially designed whole life insurance contract. And when you add that wrinkle, it creates multiple benefits. Now, it's not going to increase the revenue of your business. It's not a lead gen tool. But what it will do is it'll create death benefit on owners. It'll create tax advantages of the growth of the cash, right? The thing about how much growth is not happening in your retained earnings. It also create a level of creditor protection. And in a business and a family, that's important. And it'll create a future income stream. And so we'll talk about that. But what comes up commonly when we start describing this is maybe just a little bit of hesitation to say, hey, I don't necessarily want to be doing investing inside of my business. I don't want to be adding risk. I don't want to even make this harder than it already is to be organized in my business. And so what I'd say is, this is not an investment. This is not a risk to the business. This is actually an asset to the business or an asset to the family. And so long as you're organized with your cash flows, this isn't any harder to do. And so what we're talking about is adding to scale over time a way to increase efficiency with the cash. And so maybe what this is a little bit like, it's like the point in your business when you realize, I'm too busy, we've grown, I'm too busy, I need to hire someone to manage the operations of the business, or whatever you would call it in your world, to say, I need somebody to help put time and effort to create better results in this area. That way I can keep doing the things that I'm doing here. And that's what the process of infinite banking is a little bit like as you grow. And so just to give you a little bit of, well, what is this? I just want to give you just a simple sort of outline of how this works. And just I've got cash flow coming through. So ultimately we've got cash flows happening inside of a business, things that you might be setting aside, like savings for expansion, future purchases in the business, inventory, maybe. We're setting aside money to pay taxes that come due, and maybe there's some retained earnings of the profits. And ultimately what we're talking about is creating a better storage place for that cash. And so implementing the infinite banking concept which is the movement of cash, right? Back and forth between these things, and ultimately moving that through a very specific whole life insurance policy. And then what we can go to do with that is we can then go use it, right? The whole reason that we need to put cash in the savings and store it is so that we can use it to pay taxes, to make major purchases, to distribute profit. And what this does long term is, I would say, well, you're probably doing these two things, right? Adding this here, what this does is builds more benefits. And just a high level, I would say two key immediate benefits is, number one, it creates death benefits, right? There's no life insurance, there's no death benefit in your checking accounts, but it also creates uninterrupted growth. And we can share more exactly how that works. What we're talking about doing here is, when we interact with money between whole life insurance and what we use it for, we're taking loans to go do that. And what that does is allows this piece to continue growing. And so ultimately what it's going to create for us is a future income stream, which is very powerful, and if done correctly, a tax-free one. So what this creates is opportunity. When we're taking loans to go do these things, it creates a loan balance, doesn't it? And what that does is gives us a place to come in and backfill, which is, if I'm paying this amount in taxes and I'm putting that through this system here, if the business grows, I'm going to need more place to put that. And so that gives us a place to come and backfill, or to store back and accommodate business growth. It also allows us to position for a future sale of the business, right? If I sell a business, what am I going to do with the cash when that happens? Well, if I've got the cash today beginning to work now, and I build this loan balance and I sell the business, I can come replenish this loan balance with the sale. And then the other thing that this does is it allows us to accommodate more cash flows. And there's some nuance here, but ultimately what I'm talking about is, if you solve for 1, 2, or 3 of these things, right? If we're going to begin to store this over here to use over here, it allows us to maybe accommodate some of our personal cash flows. And in the video that I created on what this looks like for just the average family and major purchases, if you're doing this in the business, you can also do this on the personal level. And this foundational tool can accommodate all of that if done correctly. And so ultimately, that's the very simple process. Take the cash flow in the business, store it, and then borrow to go do these things, add this. And so I just want to give then a very simple example. Ultimately, as we implement this, there's a few key ways that I like to help people to think about this. And I just want to share with you how I helped Eric with this. He came, and he's a business owner for many years. He was very organized as well. He actually implemented this concept called profit first, which, whenever I work with a business owner who understands that, it makes all of this very simple. So he took business cash flows, and we ultimately identified his tax liability. And what he was doing is paying quarterly taxes, and he was saving up those dollars in a checking account and then go paying them, right? Setting aside revenue for taxes and paying quarterly. And what we decided to do was to build the infinite banking concept into this. And so we took his tax estimations, what he was expecting, which was about $40,000 a year he was expecting in this one business for his taxes. And we started putting this in at a quarterly basis. And then he would be able to go take this and take loans, an insurance company, to go pay the taxes. We also needed to add some additional dollars. And so we took from his profit account about $20,000 a year to make ongoing premium payments for the life insurance policy. And so that's just what we did, and started building this loan balance. Well, as we implemented this created a couple things here. Is number one, it got him started. It didn't change anything that he's doing over here. He's already doing this. We just started doing it here. It started building a loan balance. And as we did this, a couple of things it created is for him, it created immediately about $2 million of death benefit. And that if he were to pass away, his wife would receive this death benefit, just adding and thinking about these tax dollars. But with this loan balance, it also opened him up to say, hey, I've got 2 kids right now that we're sending to private school, and I'm paying tuition on a monthly basis, every month paying for tuition. And so we looked at it and said, hey, if you go to the school and you ask them, if I pay tuition on a semester by semester basis, is there a bit discount to pay ahead? And this is the school said, yeah, we give a discount if you pay ahead. And so he built up some cash, ultimately went and paid for that school, bang, for a semester, and then took the monthly amount that he was paying towards tuition and started making loan repayments right here. And so he started with this tax account, his business tax dollars that were coming through, and he incorporated his school liability. Ultimately, that opened his mind more, and he's found many more cash flows to start moving through this. And he's able to accommodate his business growth, his personal cash flows, and now with other systems in place, expanding his infinite banking, do more of this. And ultimately, when we look at this, the thing that I love the most about this process is, and when we looked at this, we determined when he turns 70 years old, this insurance policy is going to have grown, and we're planning to have all these loans repaid. He's going to be able to take about $85,000 a year in tax-free passive income from this insurance policy. So just by adding this one piece, add this future income stream to what he has going on. I think that's pretty amazing. So as he's implementing this process, if you're hearing this and you're saying, I don't have this in place, I'm pretty organized in my business, but I don't have this in place, and you want to know how this would look inside of your business and your family, and want to know how we can set this up for you, just like I did in this example for Eric, then I want you to set a phone call and let's determine if this is appropriate, give you resources on how to learn, and then how we can help you implement. Set that phone call, and I'll look forward to talking to you.